Wars are decided not by heroes or weapons, but by supply. Every Allied victory in World War II depended on a chain that fed, clothed, armed, and fueled millions, stretching across oceans, factories, and continents. 17 million tons were shipped to Britain, 1,500 factories were uprooted overnight, and the invention of the standard crate turned chaos into momentum. But what happened when the math of survival broke down? The answer reveals how battles were won before the first shot was fired. A single soldier needed more than a rifle. Every day the list grew: a pound of rations, a gallon of clean water, dry socks, boots, ammunition, fuel for trucks and tanks, bandages, morphine, even soap and spare buttons. Multiply that by millions, and the numbers become almost impossible to grasp. The United States alone shipped over 17 million tons of cargo to Britain, enough to fill a train stretching from London to Moscow, just to keep its armies moving. That cargo included not just bullets and bread, but 800,000 pints of blood plasma, 125 million maps, and entire prefabricated harbors. To meet the demand, entire economies transformed overnight. In Detroit, car assembly lines stopped making sedans and turned out tanks and trucks. A refrigerator plant in Indiana switched to artillery shells. Factory lights burned around the clock. In the Soviet Union, the response was even more drastic. As German armies advanced in 1941, more than 1,500 factories were loaded onto trains and hauled east beyond the reach of bombers. Machinery rattled across the rails, followed by families and workers. In the Urals, a young woman named Anna welded tank hulls 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, in a plant built from scratch. She worked through winter in a coat and scarf, hands numb, knowing that every seam she finished might save a crew at the front. The war was fought as much in these factories as on the battlefield. Without this surge in production, there would have been nothing to ship, nothing to load, nothing to fire. Confusion and delay once haunted military supply chains. Early in the war, armies faced a maze of mismatched parts, crates that would not stack, and vehicles that demanded unique spares for every breakdown. To fix this, Allied planners made a decisive move. Everything from ammunition to vehicles would be built to common standards. In 1942, a joint committee of American and British officers agreed to unify crate dimensions, streamline ammunition calibers, and select standard vehicle platforms. This was not just theory, it changed daily operations. Crates now fit perfectly in ships' holds, on trains, and in truck beds, no matter where they were loaded or unloaded. Quartermasters could spot a requisition number and know instantly what was inside and where it belonged. The Willys Jeep and the GMC 2.5-ton truck became the backbone of Allied movement. Spare parts for these vehicles were interchangeable across continents, and mechanics trained on one could fix any in the field. Standard artillery shells meant that a shipment arriving at a depot could be sent to any gun on the front without delay. The chaos of sorting and searching gave way to a system where supply officers could move material at speed, confident that every box, bolt, and bullet would fit where it was needed. Standardization did not just save time, it multiplied the power of every factory, every ship, and every soldier relying on the flow of supplies. With confusion stripped away, the supply chain became a force of its own, ready to keep armies in motion. The Atlantic crossing was never safe. German U-boats hunted convoys day and night, sinking more than 3,000 Allied merchant ships and threatening to starve entire armies of supplies. Every ship lost meant thousands of soldiers might go without food, fuel, or ammunition. To outpace these losses, American shipyards launched over 2,700 Liberty ships, standardized cargo vessels built at a speed the enemy could not match. Some left the slipway in under 6 weeks, loaded with everything from tanks to tinned meat. But landing supplies was only half the battle. European ports quickly jammed with ships waiting to unload, and the destruction of docks by retreating Axis forces turned harbors into bottlenecks. Engineers answered with invention. Off Normandy, mulberry harbors, giant floating piers, were assembled piece by piece and anchored offshore, letting cargo flow straight onto the beaches. For fuel, the Allies laid Pluto, an underwater pipeline stretching from England to France, pumping gasoline directly to the front. These solutions kept the supply lines open, turning the sea from a graveyard into a lifeline. Cargo that survived the Atlantic crossing met its next test on steel rails. Trains carried more supply in a single day than fleets of trucks could manage in a week. From the ports, railroads became the arteries pumping food, ammunition, and fuel deep inland. But these lines were never secure for long. As armies advanced, they faced a patchwork of incompatible rail gauges, French, German, Soviet, all built to different widths. Engineers worked under fire, pulling up rails and relaying them to match Allied engines, sometimes converting hundreds of miles in days. Every mile gained meant another mile of track to rebuild. Rail yards became prime targets for bombers. In the summer of 1944, Allied aircraft dropped thousands of tons of bombs on marshalling yards across France and Germany, turning key junctions into twisted wreckage. Each destroyed switch or siding could trap hundreds of loaded cars, halting the flow of supply. The entire front depended on these lines staying open, repaired, and defended, because without the rails, nothing moved forward. 5,958 trucks thundered down battered French roads, engines straining under the weight of war. The Red Ball Express became the lifeline for Patton's advance, running day and night, headlights blacked out, drivers gripping the wheel through fatigue and shell fire. In the first 5 days, these convoys delivered over 12,000 tons of supplies, a record never matched again. The route was a single corridor, one way in, one way out, guarded by military police and marked with red circles nailed to signposts. Drivers, many of them barely out of their teens, memorized every bend and bridge. A single span blown by retreating Germans could send the entire convoy searching for a crossing, hours lost, fuel burned, tempers fraying. One driver, Private Lewis, remembered the silence when a bridge ahead was gone, just the ticking of a hot engine and the knowledge that an army was waiting behind him. The trucks kept moving, but every mile forward meant more gasoline burned, more risk, and the constant threat that a single broken bridge could bring the whole system to a halt. Fuel determined every decision at the front. In 1943, Allied bombers targeted the Ploiesti oil refineries in Romania, the single largest source of fuel for the German war machine. After the first major raid, German fuel production dropped by nearly a third. Entire Luftwaffe squadrons sat idle for lack of aviation gasoline, and panzer divisions rationed every drop. Orders from Berlin put fuel above ammunition. Without gasoline, tanks became steel coffins, and aircraft never left the ground. The loss of Ploiesti forced German commanders to choose, move, or fight, but rarely both. As refineries burned and reserves ran dry, armies slowed, then stalled. Firepower meant nothing if fuel trucks failed to arrive. Behind every advance, a chain of depots kept the front alive. Supplies flowed through a tiered system. Rear dumps held weeks of reserves, intermediate depots staged tons of cargo closer to the fighting, and forward dumps placed rations, ammo, and plasma just hours from the front. Every crate was labeled, logged, and tracked by clerks who knew that a single mistake could mean empty rifles or hungry men. In June 1944, the Allies delayed D-Day by a month, not for strategy, but to stock one more cycle of landing craft and medical stores. On the line, a field medic reached for plasma delivered that morning, knowing that 9 out of 10 wounded now survived. The system's precision became its own kind of weapon. saving lives as surely as any rifle. Cut off at Stalingrad, the German 6th Army depended on the promise of air supply. Their survival rested on a daily delivery of 750 tons of food, ammunition, and fuel, yet the Luftwaffe managed barely 200 tons on most days. Hunger and cold spread through the ranks as rations dwindled and ammunition ran out. Soldiers waited for planes that did not come, watching as the last reserves vanished. By February 1943, the army could neither fight nor flee. 90,000 men surrendered, starved, exhausted, surrounded by the dead. Stalingrad proved that when supply lines break, even the strongest army collapses. At Falaise, the story would repeat in reverse: encirclement, supply cut, surrender. Today, military supply chains span the globe, moving faster and farther than ever before. As conflicts grow more complex, logistics still decides who prevails. The next victory, on any front, will not go to the strongest, but to those who keep the lifeline unbroken. Thank you for watching.